Hi guys, it's Kat, the Northwoods Fairy, and today I decided why not get started on another Goosebumps book, since people seem to like Goosebumps as much as I do. And this one is the Series 2000. It is The Invasion of the Body Squeezers, Part 1. I have Part 1 and Part 2, which is why I decided that I was going to read this one. I have another series, but I don't have them in order, so that's why I decided with this one. So let's just get into it and see how far I can get. Sometimes I think my sister is an alien from another planet. Her name is Billy and she is 7. She looks like a normal kid, small, kind of skinny, curly blonde hair, and big brown eyes, like me. But it's hard to imagine that a normal kid from Earth could be such a huge pain. The problem is Billy has to compete. Even though I'm 12, she has to be better than me in everything, no matter what. She has to be the first, the best, the fastest. Does it drive me crazy? Take a guess. Take today, we were sitting in the den, staring at the TV, sharing a bowl of potato chips. Hey, look, Billy, I said, holding up a potato chip as big as my hand. Check out the size of this chip. Big deal, Jack. I had one twice as big, Billy replied. I sighed. I've already seen this show, I told her. I've already seen it 3 times, she exclaimed. I'm getting a stomachache from all these chips, I groaned. She groaned too. I'm getting a stomachache and headache. Get the picture? Normal earthlings don't think like that, do they? I took another handful of chips and stared at the screen. We were watching a wildlife show called Fangs because Billy likes to watch animals eat other animals. Actually, I like to watch that too, but mostly I'm into space, the unknown. I shoved the greasy chips into my mouth and watched a mountain lion chew on a deer. Suddenly, the animals vanished. A sign came up on the screen. Special news bulletin. Bring back the mountain lion, Billy protested. We just got to the good part. Shh. I pressed my hand over her mouth. I like to hear special news bulletins. A serious-looking woman appeared on the screen. We have a special bulletin from NASA headquarters, she said. An unknown object has entered Earth's orbit. Billy, it's your spaceship. They're coming for you, I teased. They're coming for you, Saucer Man, she shouted back. Don't call me that, I snapped angrily. Why did Billy call me Saucer Man? No way, I'm telling. I turned back to the TV. According to NASA, the object could be a comet or a meteor, the woman reported. It is very large. NASA scientists are surprised that it did not burn up when it entered our atmosphere. They cut to a man in a white lab coat. He pulled off his eyeglasses and rubbed his eyes. If it is a comet, he said, it's one we've never seen before. Cool, I cried, jumping up from the couch. I would love to see a real comet. I've already seen a comet, Billy sneered. No, I've seen 2 comets. Do you believe her? Do you see why sometimes there are major fights in the Archer family? I tossed a couch pillow at her. Stop bragging all the time, I said, and stop making up stories. Her brown eyes flashed. She grinned. Okay, Saucer Man, she replied. Ah! I let out an exasperated groan and started out of the den. Behind me, on the TV, the mountain lion was back, gobbling away on the deer. Jack, where are you going? Billy demanded. I'm going to spy on Mr. Fleshman, I replied. Again? I nodded. Something very weird is going on over there, I told her. Mr. Fleshman moved into the house next door a few months ago. He is tall and really scary looking. He has very tan skin. He has silvery hair, cut very short, and silver gray eyes. They're so light that you can barely see his pupils. He wears black all the time. Black sports shirts and black pants. He drives a little black convertible. Not that he drives it much. He stays home most of the time. Mr. Fleshman isn't very friendly. He never says hi when he sees me in the backyard. I don't think he's talked to Mom or Dad much either. He keeps to himself in that big old house. One night, a few weeks ago, I was up in my room and I was leaning out of my bedroom window, checking out the sky with binoculars. I like to search for shooting stars and satellites and things like that. When I looked down, I could see clearly into one of Mr. Fleshman's back windows, and I nearly dropped my binoculars when I saw some kind of creature. I only got a glimpse of it before I moved away from the window, but I know what I saw. It stood on two legs, big as a bear. I couldn't tell if it was human or animal. It had wet, grayish flesh that hung loosely as if rotting off its bones. One side of its face appeared smashed in, one eye dangled in front of it, and it was alive, I think. I'm not sure of any of this. As I said, I only had a 2-second glimpse. I've been spying on Mr. Fleshman's house ever since. Did you see the creature again? Billy asked from the couch. I only saw it that one time, I told her, but maybe today. I saw it too, Billy interrupted. Actually, I saw 4 creatures. I didn't say anything. I made a face at her. Then I hurried up to my room for the binoculars. A wooden picket fence runs between our 2 yards. It used to be white, but Dad hasn't painted it in a long time. So it's faded and peeling. Some of the boards are missing. I like to squeeze into a hole where 2 boards are gone, duck down, and spy on Mr. Fleshman's back windows. I squinted into the hazy afternoon sunlight. The lemon trees behind Mom's flower garden had ripe lemons on the branches. Some of the flowers appeared dry and wilted. On TV, they said this was one of the hottest summers on record in Los Angeles. As I crossed the lawn, the hot summer made the back of my neck prickle. I wiped the sweat off my forehead. Mom and Dad rented a house on the beach in Malibu, but they've been working so hard this summer, we've only been to it once. I stepped up to the hole in the fence and checked out the kitchen window. Did something move behind the white curtain? Was it the creature? I started to raise the binoculars when something else caught my eye. Something moving across the sky. Huh, I let out a gasp. The binoculars fell from my hand. A round object up there, glowing like gold. The comet? Oh no. It was swooping down so fast. No time to run. No time to duck. I raised both hands to shield myself and opened my mouth in a horrified scream as it bounced off my head. Ow! It hit the fence and bounced across Mr. Fleshman's yard. Dizzy, I staggered hard against the fence. Struggled to catch my balance. I rubbed my head and watched the ball roll to a stop in front of Mr. Fleshman's back porch. The ball. Yes, not a comet, not a blazing meteorite from outer space. A gold rubber ball about the size of a soccer ball. Still leaning against the fence, I shut my eyes and waited for the laughter. I knew it would come, and sure enough, I heard it. I opened my eyes to find 4 kids from my class laughing and hooting, enjoying their little joke. Maddie Weiner lives across the street. Marcia James lives 2 houses down. Marcia James lives 2 houses down from her. Derek Lee and Henry Glover live in Westwood, but they go to our school. Give me a break, I grumbled. You guys aren't funny. Sure we are, Derek declared. He slapped Henry at a 2-handed high five. What are you doing back here? Maddie demanded. Maddie is pretty awesome looking. She has long, frizzed-out black hair, blue eyes, and pouty lips. She's acted in some commercials and does some modeling. Her best friend Marcia has curly red hair and a face full of freckles. She's very quiet. Maddie talks enough for both of them. I raised a finger to my lips. Shh. I peered cautiously over the fence. There's something weird going on in that house. Henry laughed. There's something weird going on in your house, Jack. It's you. The 4 of them thought that was a riot. They hooted and laughed some more. I'm serious, I cried. I saw some kind of creature in there. You mean like a dog? Maddie asked. No, I mean like a creature, I replied. It had rotting gray skin and a crushed-in skull, and a long animal-like snout, and... Henry turned to Marcia. He was looking in your window, Marcia. The others laughed. Marcia gave Henry a hard shove into the fence. You're the only one with a long snout, Glover. That shut Henry up. He's very sensitive about his big, crooked nose. Henry and Derek are both big guys. Big heads, big chests, tall and athletic looking. They're both on the soccer and swim teams at school. Henry is a little funny looking with his tiny black eyes and crooked beak. He wears bright blue braces on his teeth. Derek has a round, almost pudgy face, short black hair, and dark, mischievous eyes. Derek always appears to be thinking of something funny. I kind of like all four of these kids, but they really give me a hard time, I demanded, glancing at Mr. Fleshman's window. Was something peering back at me? I ducked down behind the fence. Why don't we believe you? Derek demanded. Why don't we believe you? Because you're you, Maddie declared. Give me another reason, I replied. You're always talking about weird things, Marcia said. Like what? I demanded. Okay, Mr. Potter, Derek said. Excuse me, I cried. Mr. Potter? You mean Mr. Substitute Teacher? Derek nodded. Remember you said he was a werewolf? You told everyone in school he was a werewolf, and it turned out he was just trying to grow a beard. They all laughed. Okay, I messed up on that one, I confessed. And the flying saucer, Marshall chimed in. Don't forget the flying saucer. Whoa, I raised a hand to stop them, but I knew they wouldn't stop. If you showed everyone that Polaroid snapshot of a flying saucer, Maddie said, shaking her head, and it was a street lamp half hidden by a tree. Henry slapped me on the back. Way to go, saucer man. They laughed again. I laughed too. It was pretty funny. Okay, so now you know why they call me Saucer Man. This time, I know I'm right, I insisted. This time I saw it with my own 2 eyes. There's something very weird going on in that house. I saw an ugly creature in the back window. I really did. I picked up the binoculars. I glanced in Mr. Fleshman's back window and saw 2 eyes staring out at me. There it is, I cried, turning back to them. Quick, check out the window. Do you see it? Do you? My 4 friends peered over the fence. I watched their expressions change. I watched their eyes bulge in shock, and I watched their mouth open in startled cries. Oh, wow, Mandy gasped. Oh, wow. Chapter 3. I spun around and saw what they were gaping at. Mr. Fleshman stood on his back porch dressed in black. Hands on his wrists, he stared angrily across the yard at us with his strange, silvery eyes. He didn't say a word. Without taking his eyes off us, he bent and picked up the gold rubber ball. Then he stood up, scowling at us, slapping the ball between his hands. I'm out of here, Henry declared. No, wait, I started. But all 4 of them took off. They scrambled across the street and didn't stop running until they disappeared behind Maddie's house. I swallowed hard and turned back to Mr. Fleshman. He was still scowling at me, his silvery eyes narrowed, moving the ball from one hand to the other. Slap, slap, slap. At dinner, I told Mom and Dad about Mr. Fleshman and the rubber ball. He flashed me an evil stare, I said. I tried to imitate it. Mom and Dad laughed. Billy imitated the stare too. That made them laugh even harder. It isn't funny, I grumbled. It was scary. Mr. Fleshman seems to be a very private man, Mom commented. I guess he doesn't like to have rubber balls bouncing over his lawn. What were you doing back there anyway? Dad asked. Well, I hesitated. Should I tell them the truth? They were always scolding me for frightening Billy with my wild stories. But I couldn't hold this one in. I was spying on his house, I blurted. The other night, I saw some kind of monster or something in there. Mom held up a hand. Jack, stop. No, really, I cried. I didn't get a real good look at it, but I saw it. I saw it too, Billy chimed in. A monster. No, I saw 2 monsters in there. You did not, I screamed. You're stupid. Don't call your sister stupid, Mom warned. Dad turned to Billy. Stop trying to compete with your brother all the time. His stories are crazy enough without you making them even crazier. But, I sputtered. You give your sister crazy ideas, Mom scolded. She thinks she has to imitate you, and that's because she's stupid, I grumbled. No one ever believes me, all because of Billy. Pass the salad, Dad said. But I saw some kind of creature, I protested. Fine, pass the salad, Dad repeated. That's what he does when he decides we're through talking about something. He says, pass the salad. That means, shut up. I grumbled to myself and passed him the salad. And we've been eating a lot of salad. What does Mr. Fleshman do anyway? Mom asked Dad. Dad spooned a big heap of lettuce onto his plate. I don't know, he replied. He's not very friendly. I only talked with him once. He seemed a little strange. A little strange, I interrupted. He's a total weirdo. Billy laughed. She had spaghetti sauce all over her chin. Dad ignored me. I think maybe Mr. Fleshman is just shy, he continued. He seemed okay to me. Mom squeezed my arm. Stop spying on him, Jack. It really isn't nice to spy on a neighbor. Okay? Promise? I crossed my fingers under the table. No problem, I said. No way I would stop spying, not until I found out the truth about the creature I saw and the truth about Mr. Fleshman. After dinner, Mom and Dad went to a movie. Billy was over at a friend's house. I was supposed to be reading one of my summer reading books for school, but I couldn't stop thinking about Mr. Fleshman and the creature. I've got to take a peek inside that house, I decided, but how? An idea flashed instantly into my mind. Go over there and ask Mr. Fleshman for the ball back. Excellent. I hurried downstairs, taking the steps 2 at a time. Then I trotted across the backyard. I squeezed through the hole in the fence and made my way onto Mr. Fleshman's back porch. The kitchen lights were on, and I could see lights in the other back windows. He must be home, I decided. I took a deep breath, cleared my throat, and knocked on the back door. I waited a few seconds, listening for Mr. Fleshman's footsteps. Maybe he's in the front and didn't hear me. I decided. I searched for a doorbell. No bell. No bell? So I raised my fist to pound on the door again. My hand stopped mid-air when I heard a low howl from inside the house. What was that sound? A dog? No, Mr. Fleshman doesn't own a dog. Another howl made me jump back so fast I nearly fell off the stoop. The top half of the door was a window. I pressed my face against the glass and peered inside. No one in the kitchen on the far wall. I could see a doorway leading to a hall. I squinted my eyes, focusing on the doorway. I heard a thud, then a groan. Mr. Fleshman? He stumbled back into the wall. His arms flew up. His mouth was open in a choked scream. What is going on, I wondered. Is he fighting with someone? My heart pounded as I stared through the window. I heard another heavy thud. A huge figure staggered into the hallway and grabbed Mr. Fleshman by the throat. The creature. Okay, so chapter 4. Oh, a low moan of horror escaped my throat. The creature, its decayed, gray flesh was dripping off its body. Its single eyeball bounced in front of its long snout. It was an animal. Was it a human? Was it an animal? Was it human? It moved like a human, but its head was crushed in. Crushed in. My stomach lurched. I felt sick. I pressed my hand over my mouth. The ugly hair-covered snout opened wide. I saw rows and rows of jagged, broken teeth. The creature let out a bellowing roar and shoved Mr. Fleshman again hard against the wall. Stunned, Mr. Fleshman hit the wall and slid to the floor. The creature stood over him, teeth bared, skin dripping wetly off its bones. Get up, I screamed without even realizing it. Get up, please, get up. My stomach lurched again. I pressed my face harder against the glass. Mr. Fleshman climbed shakily to his feet. He appeared dazed. Staggering, he threw out his arms. Sorry, I lost my place. And tackled the creature around the waist. The creature tilted back its crushed head in a loud howl as Mr. Fleshman pushed it to the floor. They struggled, wrestled. Out of my view, I took a step back, my legs shaking so hard I could barely stand. What should I do? I cried out loud, my voice tiny and shrill. I peered back into the house. I couldn't see them. Silence now. What should I do? I have to get help. I turned, stumbled down the porch step, caught my balance, and lurched to my house. No one home, no one to tell. I'll call the police, I decided. I glanced back at Mr. Fleshman's house. Light poured from all the windows. I couldn't see him in there, couldn't see the hideous one-eyed monster. Sweat drenched my forehead, ran down my cheeks. I squeezed through the fence, ran as hard as I could through the back door into the house. Call the police, call the police. I dove for the phone on the kitchen counter, but before I could pick it up, it rang. Huh? I let out a startled gasp and pressed the receiver to my ear. Jack, a harsh voice rasped before I could say hello. Jack, I'm a monster. I know you saw me. Now I have no choice. I have to kill you over there. Okay, so no, chapter 5. The phone slid from my hand. It hit the counter and bounced onto the tile floor. I dove for it, grabbed it, and checked to see if it had broken. Then I pressed it back against my ear. Who is this? I stammered. Silence, the creature. Who is this? Who is this? I stammered. Silence. The creature. Can it talk? I wondered. Then I heard giggling, a girl's giggling. Someone breathed in the phone. Who is it? Who's there? I cried. I scared you, huh? Came the reply. Derek, it's you? Derek laughed. I'm coming to get you, Jack, he whispered. I'm right across the street. Get off the phone, I cried. This is no time for jokes, Derek, please. Did we scare you? I recognized Maddie's voice. I've got real things to be scared about, I told her. Maddie, please, can you... Marcia is here too, she interrupted. And Henry, you're on the speakerphone, Jack. We heard you gasp when Derek said, can you come over? I cried, I'm kind of scared. I'm all alone here, Maddie. Do you think you could come over? She giggled. Why? I saw the monster, I told her. I saw it at Mr. Fleshman's house. They were fighting, and I think it killed Mr. Fleshman. I could hear them all laugh. Nice try, Jack, Henry said. We're not stupid. Derek added, if you want to trick us, you'll have to do better than that. Give it a rest, Jack, I heard Marcia mutter. No, please, I protested. It's not a joke. I saw them fighting. It was horrible. Oh, I'm scared, Henry cried. Get off the phone, I screamed. If you're not going to come over here to help me, get off the phone. I've got to call the police. Dial a monster, Derek joked. I slammed the phone down. Didn't they realize this was an emergency? Sometimes my friends can be so lame. My hands were shaking as I picked up the phone again. I listened for the dial tone, then I punched in the emergency 911 number. It rang once. What will I tell the police? The question forced its way into my mind. If I tell them I saw a monster next door, there's no way they'll believe me. I'll just tell them I saw a fight. I decided I won't mention the monster. A second rang. The front doorbell chimed. I slammed on the phone and spun away from the kitchen counter. Who is at the front door? It must be my friends, I decided. Maybe they changed their minds. Maybe they came over to see if I'm okay. To help me. The doorbell chimed again. Coming, I shouted. I took off down the hall through the living room. I grabbed the knob on the front door and started to turn it. A sudden thought made me stop. Don't open the door, I warned myself, till you know who it is. I pulled my hand from the knob. Who's there? I called. My voice came out tiny and weak. No answer. Who's there? I repeated, pressing my ear against the door. I pushed myself away from the door and ran to the living room window. Squinting out into the darkness, I saw a tall figure standing on the porch, Mr. Fleshman. Okay, Chapter 6. Let me just take a drink. Chapter 6. I froze, my face pressed against the window glass. I watched Mr. Fleshman lean forward and press the doorbell again. He's okay, I realized. He must have won that wrestling match with the creature. But why is he here? What does he want? The door chimes rang in my ears, startling me from my thoughts. I made my way back to the front door. I attached the chain and opened the door a crack. Who is it? I called out. It's Mr. Fleshman, your neighbor, he replied. He had a hoarse, breathy voice. My parents aren't home, I stammered. That's okay, he replied, speaking softly. I wanted to talk to you. What about? I blurted out. I checked to make sure the chain was pulled tight, then I peeked out through the crack in the doorway. Mr. Fleshman's silver-white hair glowed in the moonlight. His face appeared calm, almost blank. He didn't look as if he'd been in a horrible fight with a monster. I brought back your ball, he said, almost in a whisper. He raised the rubber ball in one hand. He held it up to the opening. Thanks, I replied. I wanted to tell him to put the ball down on the porch and leave, but I knew I couldn't do that. He held up the ball. I had no choice. I unhooked the chain and pulled open the front door. Thanks, I repeated. I took the ball from him. I wanted to slam the door. I wanted him to go away. He stood, so tall and straight. The silver hair made his whole head appear to glow. He narrowed his strange eyes at me. I know you and your friends have been spying on me, Jack, he said. He spoke slowly, and so softly I could barely hear him. His piercing gray eyes locked coldly on mine. Well, I started. My voice cracked. I want you to stop spying, he said through the clenched teeth. Huh? I let out a gasp. I didn't know what to say, but I saw something in your house, I blurted out. I don't care what you saw, Mr. Fleshman snapped. My work is top secret, and I can't allow you to spy on me. Top secret? I said shrilly. He didn't reply. He just stared down at me with those cold, cold eyes. I shivered. We stared at each other for a long while. Do you understand, Jack? He said finally. No more spying. I nodded. Good, he whispered. Then there won't be any trouble between you and me. He leaned down, bringing his face close to mine. You don't want trouble, do you? He whispered. He's threatening me, I realized. I shivered again. No trouble, I choked out. He nodded. Those cold eyes froze on mine. Then he turned and strode across the front lawn to his house. He didn't glance back. I shut the front door and locked it. Then I collapsed onto the bottom step of the front stairway. I waited for my heart to stop racing and wiped my cold, sweaty hands on my legs of my jeans. Now I can't stop spying, I told myself. Now I have no choice. I have to find out what Mr. Fleshman's secret is. He's doing something weird over there. Something he wants to hide. If only my parents were home. But of course, they wouldn't believe me anyway. If I tell them, they'll be on Mr. Fleshman's side. I decided they'll go to his house and apologize. They'll promise Mr. Fleshman to keep me away from his yard. Then they'll punish me for bothering our neighbor. They'll punish me for bothering our neighbor. Grown-ups stick together. It's really annoying. Mr. Fleshman is hiding some kind of monster in there. A weird, evil monster, and I'm the only one who knows about it. The thought made the hairs on the back of my neck prickle. I'm the only one. But Mom and Dad wouldn't believe me. Unless I had proof. I jumped to my feet. Yes, proof. If I could show Mom and Dad some kind of evidence, some kind of proof, then they'd have to believe me. I suddenly felt better. I'd made a decision, a big decision. I knew what I had to do. So we're going to stop at chapter 7 this time. And that is the first part in a series. It'll probably take me 2 more times to read the whole book. Invasion of the Body Squeezers, part 1. I hope you all have a very relaxing good night and a good sleep.